Capital News tonight. 5 bodies recovered after a canoe capsized in Singida region. Buganda and Ndanda referral hospitals face a shortage of oxygen cylinders. And in sports, Yanga African Sports Club are reported to have signed Congolese Juma Shaban from AS Vita. Good evening. This is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Vanessa Victor. Let's get started with the national news. The bodies of 5 people, including a Form 4 student at Mrama Secondary School in Singida District Council, have been found following an operation conducted by the Fire and Rescue Force in collaboration with fishermen after they both capsized on June 5th. The 5 were on their way to a funeral at Kinyeto village when the incident occurred.
We have found 5 bodies that were missing following a capsized boat that was ferrying people from one point to the other. 8 more people are added to the team as efforts of increasing rescuing operations. We do thank the government for the support.
Uganda Referral Hospital in Mwanza region is facing shortage of 500 oxygen cylinders for patients suffering with respiratory diseases, including the coronavirus admitted at the hospital. This was revealed by the Acting Director General of Uganda Referral Hospital, Dr. Fabian Masaga, after a meeting convened by the Regional Commissioner in Mwanza, Robert Gabriel, on preparedness measures against COVID-19.
Changamoto kubwa ni tunategemea kama wagonjwa wanajitokeza na wanaongezeka, tunategemea matumizi makubwa ya oxygen.
The main challenge is the speed of transmission. We foresee high demands of oxygen machines, medical resources, poor protective measures by the public. As experts, we recommend that councils should continue preparations of taking patients to hospital. If the councils will be able to take care of at least 10 people, then this will reduce pressure of upper hospital levels.
Endeleeni kuzalisha oxygen ili kuwaokoa wananchi wa mkoa wa Mwanza na wananchi wote watakaofika hapa.
Continue producing oxygen for Mwanza residents. We are also calling on oxygen producers to consider reducing prices of oxygen because the product is very expensive at times that it is highly demanded. There is high demand of medical resources in giving out required services to patients, including oxygen and its cylinders, ventilators, cardiac monitors, pulse oximeters, masks, gloves, sanitizers, soaps, among others. People are not taking precautions because most are not wearing masks, among other things that were recommended by the Ministry of Health. People have no fear, although education on how to protect themselves from the virus is disseminated.
In Mtwara region, Ndanda Referral Hospital in Masasi district is also facing a shortage of medical tools to address COVID-19, which include oxygen cylinders, even though it is depended on by other district hospitals and health centers.
Following COVID-19 outbreak, Ndanda Regional Hospital lacks working equipment like oxygen concentrators are not enough. Beds at the ICU ward are also not enough.
Kwa upande wa hospitali wa mkoa pamoja na kwamba hatuna jengo la ICU lakini
on the part of regional hospital we do not have ICU center, although the government has the plan of establishing one. In this year's financial year, 1 billion shillings has been set aside for the regional hospital to construct a theatre and ICU buildings. Meanwhile, we have set a special ward with 15 beds and placed oxygen machines to care for COVID-19 patients as an emergency ward. As leaders from different cadres, we need to put our contributions in the fight against COVID-19. I call on you to be leading examples in emphasizing on safety measures against the virus.
And Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa has directed all councils in Dodoma region to establish grape seedling blocks in order to address the problem of a shortage facing farmers. Addressing a meeting with grape stakeholders in Dodoma, Prime Minister Majaliwa said that the government is determined to revive grape farming in the country.
More than 300,000 seedlings are needed, although we need to have more so that they could be distributed among residents. The current capacity is producing only 100,000 seedlings. It is very small. From these sensitization programs, they will bring more awareness, and demands are going to be bigger. The issue of seedlings should not be left for the research department alone, because all councils must have nurseries for producing seedlings.
Kama nchi, Mheshimiwa Waziri Mkuu, tunazalisha mchuzi wa zabibu usiozidi lita milioni 5.
As the country, we produce not more than 5 million liters of grapes puree on both 2 seasons, while importation of wine and grapes puree in the country is almost 10 million tons annually. This shows the value of this crop and its demand in the country.
And former presidents and prime ministers of the United Republic of Tanzania have expressed satisfaction on implementation of the standard gauge railway strategic construction project from Dar es Salaam to Mwanza. They made the remarks after a tour of a 1-kilometer tunnel in Kilosa district, Morogoro region. The former leaders included retired President Jakaya Kikwete of the 4th phase government, retired 2nd phase President Ali Hassan Mwinyi, and former Prime Ministers John Malechela and Mizengo Pinda.
Nashukuru sana Rais Magufuli katika mambo ambayo tulizungumza, moja kitu ambacho tulimwachia kiporo ni hiki.
We thank the late President Dr. John Pombe Magufuli for these efforts he has carried on from where we left by ensuring that the project is implemented. We are happy to see that President Samia is also taking over in completing the left phases. I, together with my fellow retired leaders, we are indeed satisfied and happy with progress made. The aim of going to Kigoma is to reach out to other neighboring countries like Burundi, Rwanda, and DRC. Kalema route is to reach to Lubumbashi, Bukavu, Buzwira, and Kivu. These are areas which are rich in minerals and highly populated. Power will be collected from Kinyelezi, Dar es Salaam to Kinguruila, Morogoro. This project is complete by 100%. The contractor came from India at a cost of 71.2 billion shillings in constructing 160 kilometers. If honorable retirees are ready to visit the project, we are ready to take you there.
The Minister of Water, Juma Aweso, has expressed dissatisfaction on water connection prices and directed water authorities in the country to come up with new prices as the current ones are too high. Minister Aweso gave the directive when he met with executives from Dar es Salaam Water and Sewerage Authority, DAWASA.
Nataka niwape usia watendaji kwa maana watumishi wote wa Wizara ya Maji na wa mamlaka za maji.
I want to bequeath to all executives, let's have a good service and language to the citizens who are our customers. Today you get salaries and gifts. This is due to the contributions of the citizens we provide services to.
Mwaka 2018
In 2018, DAWASA, with the consent of the Water Ministry, began a process of allocating 35% every month to develop water projects. The goal is to speed up the supply of water services to help the government achieve its goals and sustainable goals.
The 45th Dar es Salaam International Trade Fair has continued to attract many residents who turned up to see various goods and services shown by various exhibitors, which include a 7-kilo pawpaw as well as free health screening services.
This seed takes 7 months to harvest the papayas. Preparing the seed itself takes about 2 months for the seed to grow into a seedling and send it into the field. We have come up with a water filter that will bring solutions to the rural environment where there is no clean and safe water. This plant will help communities where there is no clean water. For an investor to be qualified to be registered with an investment center, if he is a Tanzanian, then he should have a project worth 100,000 USD, and for the foreign investor, it is a project not less than 500,000 US dollars.
Tropical Pesticides Research Institute, TPRI, is in the process of changing to become a Plant Health and Pesticides Regulatory Authority. This was said by the Acting Director General of TPRI, Dr. Ephraim Njau, after a tour of IPP media houses in Mikocheni, Dar es Salaam.
Katika sheria hii inaenda kubadilisha sasa.
This law transforms the TPRA institution from Research Institute into Plant and Pesticide Regulatory Authority, or you can call it Tanzania Plant Health and Pesticide Authority, and its core responsibilities have not been changed. It will be a dynamic international recognized authority. In all countries where you want to trade crops, you must have complied with the international standards so that they can access to European, Chinese and US markets.
During the tour, Dr. Njau and his delegation witnessed operation and production activities of ITV Radio 1, East Africa TV and East Africa Radio, as well as Capital TV and Capital Radio, where he commended investment done by the founder, the late Dr. Reginald Mengi.
Kitu nilichojifunza pia kwamba muhasisi wa kituo hiki, Daktari hayati Dr. Reginald Mengi.
What I have learned today is that the pioneer of this station, the late Dr. Reginald Mengi, did tremendous investments in the media sector. This has taught me that even the locals can do bigger things once they are given opportunities. Previously, we believed that only foreigners can do such kind of investments, while it is not true. When locals are given opportunities in this kind of investments, they contribute in building the nation, create employments. We are thrilled as a public institution to witness how journalists and news help in giving out information.
And that is all for the national news. International news is next.
Are you ready for some great news? I'm Christine Mundwa.
And I am Eddie Micah Jr. with the brand new DW News Africa,
the show that tackles the issues shaping the continent.
Now with more time to offer an in-depth look at all the trends that matter to you.
What's making the headlines and what's behind them?
We're on the streets to give you in-depth reports and insights.
DW News Africa.
In international news, a passenger plane carrying 28 people crashed in Russia's Far East on Tuesday, leaving everyone aboard feared dead. Here is more on the report.
Russia's emergencies ministry said the plane was en route from the regional capital to Palana town in northeastern Kamchatka when it lost contact with air traffic control shortly before 3 p.m. local time. There were 22 passengers and 6 crew on board the Antonov AN-26 twin gas-engined turboprop, which had been in operation since 1982 and belonged to a company called Kamchatka Aviation Enterprises. Most were residents of Palana, a town which is home to about 2,900 people and near the Sea of Okhotsk.
Traders at a Kongowea market in Nyali, Mombasa County in Kenya have incurred losses after a fire razed down their stalls on Monday night. Mombasa County authorities have not yet established what time the fire broke out. In January last year, a fire broke out at the market and destroyed the second-hand clothes section, which hosts more than 100 tailors and several food kiosks. Uganda, through the African Union, has concluded a deal to procure 2 million COVID-19 vaccines from U.S. pharmaceutical company Johnson & Johnson. This is in addition to sourcing the vaccine through COVAX, a facility set up by the World Health Organization to ensure that poor countries can access the life-saving jabs. That is all for the international news. We'll be back with business news after this short break.
Tune in to Business Edition and meet business leaders and experts who keep you informed on business and economic developments taking place in the country, such as tourism, construction, energy, transport, mining, agriculture, communication, banking, real estate, and more. Business Edition on Friday at 8:15 p.m. only on Capital Television.
In business news, investors at Tulay Coffee Estate in High District, Kilimanjaro region have said they have incurred a loss of more than 7 billion shillings after stopping production activities for 3 years due to low yields at the estate.
There are 4 different investors who claim to have invested in this farm. There are British contractors who have grown 400 acres of coffee, dug ponds, and there are some Israelis who have invested as much as 2 billions, Germans who have grown almost 200 acres of apricots, and they have invested there. There are also Tanzanians who have invested at about 1 billion shillings. This farm has 4 different nationals investors at a time. I think it's time for the government to intervene.
Sisi wenye mashamba
there are 4 different investors who claim to have invested in this farm. There are British contractors who have grown 400 acres of coffee, dug ponds, and there are some Israelis who have invested as much as 2 billions, Germans who have grown almost 200 acres of apricots, and they have invested there. There are also Tanzanians who have invested at about 1 billion shillings. This farm has 4 different nationals investors at a time. I think it's time for the government to intervene.
The Fair Competition Commission has said that it will not allow joint ventures between companies which already have contracts that will affect market competition and consumers.
The roads and schools.
Unatakiwa usiwe unahodhi soko, kwa sababu mtu anayehodhi soko ana hatari zake.
You're not required to control the market because owning the market has its risks. The law says do not own more than 35% of the market in one product. If he decides to reduce production because he owns the product, then the price will be higher because no one has a product like his own. We are reviewing the law because it looks at the domestic market and we are looking at the East African and international market so that the country gets foreign exchange. The law does not allow illegal agreements.
That's where we leave off with business news. Sports news is next.
Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment and going away. Gay trying to go with him, and he's going to be dragged through to second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment and going away. Gay trying to go with him, and he's going to be dragged through to second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Opposition, Joaquinho, he did lose to Lynn.
And now in sports. Young African Sports Club are reported to have signed Juma Shaban from AS Vita. Here is more on this story.
Photos have leaked of the Congolese left-back and head of signing committee Hersi Said after the player signed the contract. Juma was also targeted by Simba following his performance against them in the CAF Champions League group game.
And Tanzania Giants Yanga Sports Club have confirmed their interest to sign Gor Mahia midfielder Kenneth Muguna. Here is more.
Giants have already approached the player and his representatives over a possible move ahead of the new mainland Premier League season. At the start of this season, Muguna, who was the Kogalo captain before he was stripped of the captaincy, which was handed to Harun Shakava, was close to signing for the Timu Wananchi, but the deal fell through. Muguna has been the key player for Gor Mahia this season, and he was in great form on Sunday as they defeated rivals AFC Leopards 4-1 on penalties to clinch the FKF Shield Cup and ticket to the CAF Confederations Cup.
Barcelona are unable to register the new summer signings due to financial troubles at the club, and they still need to resign Lionel Messi. Here is the story.
The La Liga Giants are almost £1 billion in debt, with new president Joan Laporta describing it as much worse than he thought. Barcelona have brought in Sergio Aguero, Memphis Depay and Eric Garcia on free transfer so far this summer, while also paying £7.7 million for Emerson Royal. But reports claim the club can't register the quartet because they have exceeded La Liga's salary limit, and that's without adding Messi's salary to the equation, with the Argentine grid currently a free agent, having failed to sign a new contract extension at the Nou Camp.
And the coronavirus pandemic is forcing organizers of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics to restrict attendance at the Games opening ceremony to a limited number of VIPs, Japanese media have reported.
Fundraiser at the 68,000-seat main stadium on 23rd of July will be watched only by people connected to sponsors, along with diplomats and other special guests, with the number sharply reduced from an initial estimate of 10,000, the Asahi Shimbun newspaper said on Tuesday, citing multiple unidentified sources. In addition, Olympic competitions at large venues and those scheduled for after 9 p.m. will be held without spectators to discourage people from spending time in the capital after the events have ended. The Tokyo 2020 Organizing Committee has already banned overseas spectators and set a cap on domestic spectators of 10,000 per venue, or 50% of capacity.
The Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne has been cancelled for a second straight year due to restrictions and logistical challenges related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
The race weekend at Albert Park was due to start on 18th of November. The Victorian government said on Tuesday the slow vaccine rollout in the state and the federal government's recent decision to halve its cap on international arrivals made it impossible at this point to give assurance over the event's viability. The MotoGP event at Phillip Island, scheduled for 24th of October, has also been cancelled, as it was in 2020. It was not immediately clear where a replacement race will be held, but Formula One CEO Stefano Domenicali said he expected a full season delivered without Melbourne.
And that sports item ends our news bulletin. My name is Vanessa Victor. Thank you for watching and good night.
Ule msimu wa kunufaika na vituo vyako bora umewadia. Ni msimu mwingine wa Sabasaba. Vituo vyako bora vya ITV Radio 1, Capital Radio na Capital Television wanakuletea ofa kabambe. Pata fursa ya kutangaza nasi kwa bei ya punguzo kabisa. Nunua matangazo manne ya sekunde 30 kwa shilingi 500,000, na kwa upande wa radio matangazo madogo madogo yani casual adverts kwa shilingi 100,000. Ofa hii ya msimu wa Sabasaba pia inahusisha vipindi vya dakika 5 na 10 kwenye TV na Brand Talk kwenye radio. Kwa maelezo zaidi wasiliana na idara ya masoko kwa simu nambari 0658777144 au 0676777147. Ofa hii ni kuanzia tarehe 15 mwezi wa 6 hadi tarehe 18 mwezi wa 8 2021. Vigezo na masharti kuzingatiwa.
You can watch Capital News live on our social media accounts, YouTube Capital TV and Facebook Capital Television Tanzania from Monday to Friday at 9:30 p.m. Don't forget to subscribe and put notification on.
Chemsha bongo, chemsha bongo, chemsha bongo! Ndio, ni chemsha bongo. Piga simu sasa nikuulize swali jepesi. Ukipata zako salamu kwa watu watatu. Ukichemka unakutana na Yes, mkono wa kipusa. Na sasa kwenye chemsha bongo kuna zawadi kibao kama vile simu ya mkononi, gas cooker, blender, rice cooker na nyinginezo nyingi. Zote hizi zipo kwa ajili yako. Kila siku inatoka zawadi moja.
Baada ya kupiga simu na kuambiwa kutoa namba yangu hewani, watu wengi walinipigia, wakawa hawaamini, wanasema kweli ni kweli au vipi. Kwa hiyo niwadhibitishie tu kwamba ni kweli nimepata zawadi ya simu.
Ni chemsha bongo bwana. Chemsha bongo kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 2:30 usiku hapa Radio 1.
Hakika kipindi ni kizuri na maswali hakika yanaulizwa ni yale kabisa yaliyopo katika jamii zetu.
Twende kazi sasa. Chemsha bongo.
In Tanzania, we have an amazing array of places we call home. But when it comes to interior designing, decorations, and gardening,